Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Inside the Mirror podcast, your favorite podcast, my favorite podcast. It's not your favorite podcast, I don't know what to tell you. Welcome back, Inside the Mirror. I'm Kyle David. Today I have the Queen Bee with me. Oh, my mama, mi madre, mi mama, my mama, mi mama, I don't know, real good Spanish. My mother is here, Kathy L. Crabtree is my guest today. Again, she's the Queen Bee. Call her what you want. The goddess, the Queen Bee, Katharina, Catho. We're going to end there. Catho! Hello, Mom. How are you?
Hello, I am well. It's good to see you this way.
Like as I said, I slept in these clothes. So, again, we keep it very informal on this side. It's my show, my clothes, my rules. I slept in these to season them for today. So the clothes are seasoned, the mics are seasoned, the camera's seasoned. Welcome. Yes. Welcome to the season.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, we gotta get into it. We only have so much time. So, 2 to 3 minute overview of Kathy. Who are you? What are you about? Whatever you can fit into 2 to 3 minutes that would give it a small description of kind of trying to get to know you off the cuff.
Okay. Well, I'm a wife, mother, lover of Jesus, follower of God. I like to write, express my thoughts through writing. Oftentimes God will help me see an important lesson for life or spiritual truth through something that happens in the natural. For instance, pulling weeds one day, I remember I kind of saw the truth that sometimes we let things take root in our heart. And there's sometimes very negative, anger, unforgiveness, bitterness, and we need to pull those out by the roots, because if you leave the roots, it'll spring up again. So those are the kind of things I like to write and share about to help encourage others. And I love to walk and hike. And so I'm thankful that I live in Colorado, northern Colorado, where right now I can get out and enjoy the beauty of the day. So there you go.
There it is. Well, 2 things I want to highlight there. A, I'm sorry I didn't say in the introduction, she's an author and speaker. Okay, there we go. Now the introduction is complete. She's not just Catho, the mom. You are an author and a speaker, which we could talk about more later. Also, the second thing I would like to note on a personal selfishness level is that we don't have any good hiking around me here in Dallas. So thanks for rubbing that in. All my Dallas people know. And I tell everybody, I very much, I've told you this. I love the big city. This is way off path. I love the big city. I like the buzz. I like the energy. I like Dallas. I hate that where's the outdoor activities in 112-degree weather when everything's flat? Anyways, we'll keep it moving. Yes, author, speaker, my mother. This is going to be a COVID CONVOS episode of Inside the Mirror. So with that being said, I like to touch on COVID, right? We all are aware of what it is. COVID-19 is here. It's 2020. It's going to be COVID 2021. It's not going away. How have you dealt with COVID? Where are you at right now? We'll kind of go with that, I think, first. It's kind of where are you at? How's it affecting you?
Oh gosh, I think it's been very much an up and down journey emotionally. You know, some days I think I'm doing pretty good, and then some more information will come out, or I'll hear something that'll kind of make me go, and get concerned and fearful. And I think, you know, at the beginning of COVID, I was actually traveling in Israel. And so while I was gone, things kind of went sideways. The borders were closed, wasn't sure, you know, if we were going to make it home, and got home about March 15th after President Trump had closed the borders, to a totally different world than what I left on March 4th. And so I think—
Now, how close, I hate to interrupt, sorry.
Sure.
How close were you to not making it out? Like you were close to being stuck in Israel in the beginnings of COVID.
Right. All the borders were closed to European countries. Fortunately, we did have a direct flight from Tel Aviv to Newark, New Jersey. And so, but our flight initially was maybe half full, and within the 2 days prior to leaving, it became completely full. Everybody trying to get home. And because we didn't know if borders to Israel would close. And so it was a little tenuous, but gratefully we were on United Airlines. They did a great job getting us home. And so, yeah, it was a little touch and go there. I was hearing back from your dad, and other people were hearing from people back in the States, you guys need to get home now. But we couldn't even get through to the airlines because everybody was trying to get home. So we stuck with our original plans, and we made it safely with no issues. But it was a little nerve-wracking.
Sure.
Lots of prayers and lots of trying to say, you know what, whatever happens, happens. And you just have to learn to go with the flow and adjust accordingly.
Now you said you landed in a totally different world. Keep going from there.
Yeah, gosh, it was very odd. The airport was pretty deserted. Coming back, then as we flew back into Denver and got home about 1 or 2 in the morning. The next morning got up, and I'm hearing that there's no toilet paper, there's no food. And so made a quick trip after about 4 or 5 hours of sleep, made a quick trip to Costco and was just blown away. There was not a lot of stock of food. And the funniest part, I think, to me, was the toilet paper was gone. And I never have quite understood what happened to the toilet paper, but it disappeared. So just that readjustment of going, oh my gosh, when I left, there was things on the shelves, and now I've come home and shelves are bare, canned goods, fresh meats, chicken, just a lot of things were missing. So it was just a little sobering to go, kind of put me a little bit in panic of going, oh shoot, I'm not prepared or stocked up. And so I think that was a good takeaway, to be prepared for whatever comes down the pike. So.
Well, I mean, and now we're literally almost to the day 7 months later from March 15th when we shut down the country.
Right.
Again, through 7 months, right? What I don't want to say what has changed, because we're all aware of what's changed in the world, but like for you, how did you deal with it, right? At the beginnings of it, nobody really knew what the heck was going on. We had very limited information. Now, 7 months later, we have so much information. We could literally write books for the rest of our lives about this 7-month period. It's ridiculous. So how did you handle and still are handling the filtering of information, being in the middle of your situation at home with 2 men that are strongly opinionated? How do you handle the filtering of information from the TV and the news, or from your husband and your son, and from me and everybody on the Facebooks and the Twitters of the world, and everybody that all of a sudden 360 million people have the answers to everything? It's so amazing. Everyone's a doctor. So all of a sudden, how did you handle all the filtering of information and trying to find the truth in the midst of everything?
I think that's the $1 million question for each one of us, actually. I think I would, in a lighthearted manner, I would say I feel like I need a great sifter to be able to sift through everything. But I think that the picture of a sifter is really important, because I think we do have to sift through the information and evaluate each piece of information based on the source, the credentials of the source, the trustworthiness of the source. So for me, I have learned that I can't listen to a lot of news. For me, the audio piece is harmful, because when you listen to things, it's shared with passion and emotion, which are in and of themselves not bad. Those are certainly good and valuable things to have passion and emotion about a subject matter. But when it's shared with such force that if I don't agree with it, then I'm wrong. And so I think for me, I've had to take a step back. I've never been a huge news watcher anyway, because it kind of gets a little crazy. I don't like the interrupting and the loud talking over. But I think in this time, it's been especially important for me that I have stepped back from watching news, and I've tried to get my information more from written sources. So certain websites online that either you or your brother has shared with me, I think one of them is called Daily Wire, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So I've tried to look for some sources, because when you read something, it takes and removes the intensity of the emotion out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's been helpful for me. Sometimes I have had to say to my family, you know what, I can't talk about it right now, or I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
hear any more about it right now, because
Mm-hmm.
it's overwhelming me. Because when you're continually barraged with information, it can just kind of make you kind of feel overwhelmed and crazy. So
Mm-hmm.
I've had to personally just step back from listening to things, listening to people, and sift through what I am getting.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I've had to really pray
Mm-hmm.
and say, God, help me find what's the truth in the midst of this, what's the balanced perspective, so that I don't get out of line or out of whack in leaning too far one way or too far another way. Because for me, my measure of truth is God's word. And so God's word talks about having balanced scales. And so I want to be a woman of balance, that I'm not too crazy this way and not too crazy this way, that I find that middle ground that is a more balanced approach. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I've kind of
100%.
had to step back and evaluate.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple of things I want to highlight there that I think are super important, and even are going to be helpful for me, and I hope are helpful for the people watching or listening. Is first sifting through the information. I think that's super important. You, again, with the news being so polarized, if you watch CNN, then you get one set of information. You watch Fox, you get one set of information, and it's highly opinionated. It's highly politicized. It's not based on feeding people the most helpful, honest information that's truthful. It's based on taking maybe some truthful information and putting an opinion, or like you said, emotion behind it. So sifting information, not just using Fox and CNN as your foundations of truth, right? There, we have the internet. You could read 1,000 articles today from very reputable sources and get a lot of good information that Fox would probably never tell you about. CNN probably hasn't touched on, right? So you have to be willing to seek new sources besides our old system of watching these two-party news systems is ridiculous. We have to get past that. We have the internet. So I think you're wise in sifting through. And to be able to sift, you have to have a lot of grains, right? You think of sand, sifting sand.
Right.
It's not 2 grains of sand you're sifting. That you don't need to sift. You can pull them apart. When you're sifting, that means you have a lot going on. You're getting information from a lot of sources, which I think is wise. You can't just trust one source in 2020. So I like that you said sifting. I have also become much like you in that I don't want to watch anybody else talk about their opinions anymore.
Right.
I want to read about it, because to your point, it takes the bias and the emotion, not completely out, but a huge portion of the bias and the emotion and the agenda in the information being presented on Fox, CNN, on any news channel, or on a YouTube show, or wherever you're watching your videos. Those people have a bias, not to knock them, but everyone has a bias. So I think the best way, and you said it, to get your information as unbiased and as more informational versus opinionated as possible, is to read it. There's not someone yelling at you. You don't hear the ups and downs of their fluctuation of their voices. You read it, and you're able to take in the information and hear it without all the noise of that. I think sifting and reading, I like both of those tactics. I think they're super important. And then I think the last thing that you said, and I would like you to embellish on this a little bit, is that you said you have to let people know when you've had enough information. I've had enough. And I think in 2020, there's so many people, majority of people, they don't know how to go about cutting themselves off from the information because they feel they need to be informed, right? Or they don't have people around them informing them well, or they don't know how to tell somebody, hey, I have to set a boundary. This is my boundary. I'm protecting my peace. So leading right into, how have you been able to find tactics or find ways to let people know, this is my boundary? No disrespect to you. I'm glad you have way more information. I'm filled up with information now. This is my boundary. I would like you to respect that. How do you protect? Basically, my question is, how have you protected your peace as far as the COVID-19 2020 debacle?
Oh, goodness.
And all the information.
I think I've probably struggled with learning how to do that because I very much respect your dad, your brother, you, and others. But at times, and I think the important thing is to communicate it with respect and kindness. Is that, you know, I really appreciate that you have learned this, or you've heard this, or you've done this research, but right now I'm really not at a place where I can hear that. And so trying to kindly but respectfully and firmly, and then stand my ground. You know what, I really don't want to talk about that right now. And at times I've asked the guys to watch the news on the basement TV, so I'm not up here, or they're not up here watching it, or I've come to my office. Another big thing for me of finding peace is not only through prayer, but through just getting outside and getting away from the information. And so taking a break from whether it's reading or hearing, being able to just get outside and enjoy the beauty of the day, whether it's hot or not. Sometimes I've had to just go, you know what, it's really hot out, but I'm still gonna go outside because I just need a break. So I think for me, it's been really important to get away as well, which has been hard because with all of the stay-at-home things initially, well, where do you get away? And so the good thing about that was your dad and I took a lot of walks together around the neighborhood, and we met a lot of people that were out taking a break from being inside. And so there were some really positive things about taking those walks. But yeah, I think it's important to respectfully, kindly set a boundary and then stick with it, and sometimes step away.
And to people like me or anybody that's on the other side of receiving somebody setting up boundaries and saying, hey, this is my boundary. I don't need you to tell me any more about Donald Trump or Joe Biden or COVID-19 conspiracy theories or whatever it may be, whether they're true or not. Those people need to respect, hey, the most loving thing you can do when someone asks you to stop is to stop, right? You were taught that as a kid. When you're getting too rough with your brother, Kyle or Nate, when they're getting too rough and they say, hey, stop, time to stop. Right. Now we're adults. It should be easier for us to do that. Unfortunately, it's not, but that's another topic. We won't go down the rabbit hole of that topic. So I think, like you said, kindness and respect are big. In the 2020, there's never been a better opportunity to be kind and respectful to people, right? Absolutely. We have 50,000 things going on. And again, whether you think you're right or not, it doesn't matter. Like we've said before, you can be kind or you can be loving. You can be right or you can be loving. You can't be right in a loving way, especially in 2020, right? It's not your job to convince everybody of your opinions, and it's your job to be loving to people, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought of several. We won't go down the rabbit holes. As far as you said, you go walking, or what if you were somebody, if you're talking to somebody like me and I have no idea what I'm a single person living in an apartment. I'm not, but just say I'm a single guy. I'm living in an apartment. I don't have any friends. I'm not from here, or whoever we are. There's millions of people that are single people, young, living by themselves. They aren't getting in good information. They don't know what to do. What should they do?
Oh gosh, that's a really hard one. I mean, certainly looking for information online, but I think somehow finding, I think that's probably one of the things that COVID-19 has highlighted to me, is that we are as people, we tend to be isolated, and we tend to be alone. We tend to kind of do our own thing. And for people that are living alone, I think it's intensified that feeling of isolation. So I think probably the best thing that comes to my mind and heart is finding community. I think that has been something that's really been highlighted to me, and having moved in January, right before COVID, to a new neighborhood and just getting to know people. It really, this time really highlighted to me is I have to get out of myself and somehow find a way to connect with others, because I think that's what COVID-19 pointed out, is that we can't do it alone. We do need others. We need community. And so to that person that is isolated, I would say find a way to reach out and encourage someone. Because in reaching out and encouraging someone, being compassionate and caring and kind and interested in how can you help them, that inadvertently is going to be an encouragement to you and help you get out of that isolation. So I think that would be my encouragement, is fine, even if it's going to a park, and just saying hello to someone or encouraging someone in some small way. Hey, I really like your hat that you have on, or these days, hey, I really like your mask. So I think finding a way to create a connection with others is really important right now.
And I think piggybacking on what you said, I think with anything in life, putting yourself in a position to find opportunity, whether it's what I'm doing right now, which is trying to build a business, putting myself in a position to build a business and create opportunities for myself. Or if you're somebody in COVID-19 that needs a friendship, you feel isolated, you have to put yourself in a position to network with other people, or to get in front of somebody, like you said, and just say hello. You have to put yourself in a position. No one's coming to save you. And I know some people don't like my delivery sometimes when it's very blunt, but like, no one's coming to save you. No one's going to come knock on your apartment door in June when you're locked in the quarantine and going to go, hey, I'm just here. I'm just going around and hanging out with people. Like, no one's coming. And I know that several people have told me they don't like when I deliver things like that, but guess what? It's true. No one's coming to save you. Everybody's focused on themselves. You have to put yourself in a position, and I'm talking to people in a loving way, but if you feel isolated, and you have for the past 6-7 months, or you still do because that has just snowballed into where you're at now,
Right.
You have to put yourself in a position to get out of that isolation. No one's coming to save you. The angels aren't coming down to pick you up and introduce you to the 17 people around you. Like, you have to put your personal accountability. I don't want to go into that too much, but like, I've been isolated for many years in the prior 5-6 years. Many times I felt isolated, and it's up to me to get out of it. And I don't want to go too far down there because then I'll just repeat myself, but you are responsible to put yourself in a position to not be isolated. Right.
Well, I think the one thing that I've learned over the years about that is if you feel isolated, probably the guy down the hall feels isolated too. And so if you can put aside your own fear or feelings of isolation and reach out to somebody else because you recognize they are probably isolated as well, usually that can break that pattern or that cycle of isolation. So you're right, you have to kind of get outside of yourself and not be so self-focused and self-absorbed, which is hard. And I think that's what the walks have done for me, is I've met neighbors, I've gotten to know neighbors, and I've actually developed a couple of really wonderful friendships because I was out walking, because I was feeling isolated in my house and locked down. And so now I've developed some really good friendships in the new neighborhood, which wouldn't have happened probably had COVID not impacted us, of making us feel isolated and locked in so much. So in a positive manner, that's something good that came out of it.
Now, I love that you said that, because that's my next question is, all right, the world's burning, the apocalypse is happening, the rapture's near. No, I'm just, what are the positive things that have come out of COVID-19? Because let's be real, this has been the craziest year on record that we can remember. But at the same time, no one's, in hindsight, even as I look back at my life, and probably you look back at your life and you look at the tough times and go, oh, but this came out of the tough time, right? Or this came out of a tough time. Or, even the pain of childbirth, right? That's painful. It's not comfortable from what I hear.
Absolutely.
What I hear, it's not comfy, and it's not a real fun time, but out of it comes something amazing, right? So through struggle come amazing things if you have the right perspective and if you handle it correctly. What are some of the positive things for you personally, and then as for us as a people, as a whole, collectively? What are the positive things that we can see in 2020, COVID-19, and all the chaos that has been 2020?
Right. Oh gosh, I think of several. I think one of the positive things is I think we've become more appreciative, because not being able to go somewhere, now I appreciate the ability to get out and go places. I know that was really hard for me in the lockdown. Is I was actually supposed to come to Dallas in April, and then the lockdown happened, and then, well, maybe May. And that was very hard for me because I'm used to seeing you and the rest of the family at least 3, 4, 5 times a year. And so I now appreciate more the opportunities I have to get together with people. So that's a big one for me. I think it's also another positive thing. It's really helped me to fine tune and be intentional about my dreams and goals, excuse me, because there's dreams and goals in my heart to really write more and share more what I've learned in life, the life lessons, the truths that I've discovered. And I've always put that on the back burner. So I think a positive thing about COVID-19 is if we will allow it, it will help spur us to take every moment as a gift, to view every moment as a gift, to be intentional about our activities and be intentional about fulfilling our goals and dreams. So I think that's been a really, really positive thing for me, because it's helping me see that I need to make the most of every day, because I don't know what's coming tomorrow. And as we saw with this, it's like overnight, all of a sudden we went from freely moving about and traveling to, oh, nope, you can't go anywhere. So I think that's a positive thing, if we can take it and be intentional and let it move us forward. Another thing that I learned, and it may sound negative at first, but I want to share the positive, is I recognize that the things of our country, of our world, can be shaken. They can disappear, they can be destroyed, they can shift so much that they don't look anything like they used to look. So though that sounds negative, the positive thing that my takeaway from it was COVID-19 told me and helped reveal to me, where do I put my trust? Do I put my trust in man-made things, or do I put my trust in eternal things that have lasting value? So I think it, again, the positive thing was it kind of shifted my perspective of evaluating where's my trust, where's my hope, what is it in? Because if it's in man-made things of this world, we've seen over the decades, over history, that man-made things and man-made systems can fail. And often do fail. So again, it's taught me a lot about evaluating where my trust is. And for me, my trust is in the Lord and in the truth of his word. And so my foundation, though shaken in this natural world, if I have a firm foundation of who God says he is, and that he is sovereign and almighty, and that he loved me enough to send his son Jesus to die for me, that cannot be shaken. So I think that's a very positive thing, that it helped my roots, my spiritual roots and beliefs grow deeper and wider and broader and more secure. So.
Sure. And I'm sure you're not the only person. I mean, when the world goes to hell like it has this year, right? Well, it is what it is. People start searching, like, what is life? Why are we here? What do I believe about God? Do I believe in Buddha? Do I believe in Hinduism? What do I think about life? What is life? You know, people start asking these real questions where when things are going fine, you can just be like, man, I can't wait to like buy a Ferrari someday. Like very, whimsical, just here and now thoughts. You're not but these types of situations force you to think about life, the purpose of life. What is life? Why are we here? What is this skin stuff we're all wearing? What is all this? And I think that's, I posted something the other day, in this time where it's exposed us. 2020 has exposed us, our systems, our leaders, and people think, if we vote for the Democrats that they'll build everything and fix everything, or if we vote for the Republicans, they'll build everything and fix everything. And let me tell y'all right now, and as political as everybody is, neither one of these wonderful political parties that we have is going to fix the broken country that we live in or the broken world that we live in. No government has ever fixed the problems of man, of people, right? Like this is what I posted the other day, something to the effect of, yes, we have a lot of broken policies. We have a broken country. Every country in the world is broken in some way. If you did a little bit of research, you'd find a lot. So America is just one of tons of broken countries that reside on planet Earth. Yes, we all understand that, right? But you cannot write into law or write into policy good and evil. You cannot make people become better by writing new laws. And so in 2020, as we've seen, all the systems are broken and all these laws are not correct, the policies are wrong, tax laws are crazy, the rich people pay zero. We get that, right? So but you cannot regulate good and evil, right? And we've seen in 2020 people become so hateful along political lines and so divided. And all of them are looking to the government to fix it. We need the government to outlaw racism. We need the government to fix it all. We need the government to give us all money. We need the government. Now, some of the stuff the government does need to do, but guess what? The government can't fix this person who's hateful. The government can't write a law that's going to make this guy not hate his neighbor over here that they disagree on. The government's not going to make Donald Trump and Nancy Pelosi get along, right? Like, the government is not the answer to the problems until we fix our hearts, because our hearts are broken. The nation is broken, but our hearts are what broke the nation, right?
Absolutely.
Us wanting something man-made to fix us and make us happy and bring us joy and peace and all these things. And now in 2020, it seems insane that in the midst of chaos and we're going, oh my gosh, this is broken, this is broken, this is broken, I should be seeking answers about why am I here? What is the purpose of life? Again, instead we just look back to the government as if the government is Jesus, or the government is Buddha, and the government is going to fix it all. These are people. These are broken people. So thanks for listening to me go down that. But I just wanted to make sure that we're clear, right? In 2020, our intent should not be to make sure the government fixes the problems. I guess all that being said is that all of the issues of 2020, as we've talked here for 30 or 40 minutes, there's a lot of broken issues. There's a lot of ways to go about it. But one thing that is true is that until we fix ourselves, we're not going to fix any of these problems. Right? Absolutely. Racism isn't going away. COVID-19 isn't going to be fixed by the government, right? Like there will be things fixed by the government. But I'm just saying, like, all of these things going on have exposed us. It's not the government that's been exposed. It's not the systems that have been exposed. It's us, the people who created them. We are the problem, and we are the solution, right? Right. Yeah. It's what you said. Really, the bottom line is it's a heart issue. Yep. So once our hearts are put in the proper place and perspective and have the proper view, then a lot of things perhaps will get resolved. Mm-hmm. But government isn't the total answer. Right. I just said that because as we come up on this election and everybody's so divided and so angry at each other, both sides need to realize none of these people are going to fix your lives. They may change a law that you like. They may change a policy that you agree with or disagree with, but they can't fix your everyday peace and joy in life. They're not going to fix that. They're not going to fix your heart. You have to fix your heart. Okay, so we'll kind of wrap it up. Otherwise, I'll go down some trails, and then you'll be overwhelmed again. Okay, so the two things that I kind of wanted to end with that I think I sent you these things, right? Start with the heavier one and end with the lighter one. Okay. The heavier one being like the hardest lesson or the hardest situation that you were able to grow through in life, right? One big lesson that was difficult, but you've grown from it, you've learned from it. Just one. Okay. I think probably the biggest lesson as I reflected on that question is to lighten up and relax into God. That God is sovereign. He has a plan. Because sometimes I worry about so much, what's going to happen if this happens, then what's going to happen, and how are we going to do this, and how are we going to do that? And I think I realized that just not taking life quite so seriously and being so stressed or tense about it, but recognizing each day as a gift, and each moment I'm given, will I enjoy it? Will I embrace it? Will I experience it? Or will I be so focused on the stress and anxiety of the issue of the moment that I miss what are some positive things in the moment? How has God provided an answer or an opportunity or something in the moment? And so I think that's my biggest thing is I have to relax a little more and embrace and enjoy each moment that I get. Because as we saw with COVID-19, things can change dramatically. And we all know that we're not promised tomorrow. Things can happen that, an illness or an accident or something that can dramatically change our life or end our life. So I think that's my biggest, and at the same time, it's the best lesson, but it's the hardest lesson to fully embrace and then integrate into my
my outlook and how I live my life, because I certainly have not done it well, but that's what I'm learning. And I hope to keep learning that and embracing it more, and embracing the moment, and appreciating the gift of the moment, and not letting the stress so overrule and overshadow the moment that I miss what actually I'm getting to, or not always getting to, but what actually I'm going through. So kind of maybe it's like riding the wave. Instead of, I want to try to ride on top of the wave instead of being submerged by the wave. And so maybe that would be a picture that I want to ride the wave. I don't want to be so enveloped by the wave that I can't see the beauty of the wave coming. So
I like that. And the wave is not a physical wave that you're surfing on?
No.
Okay, I know, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But the wave, that what you said there and what I heard you say is exactly what I've been trying to work on. Is it's a perspective thing.
Right.
The wave is not physical, but it's the way you see it. It's the glass half full or half empty. Are you,
Absolutely.
or the same analogy? Are you riding the wave, or are you letting the wave overtake you? Right.
Yes.
Life, and I said this the other day. Life is a game lived up here first, and then it plays out here. You live your life up here. Don't be confused.
Absolutely.
Life is lived up here. It's not lived out here with your fingers, right? Your brain is the beginning of everything. Everything starts here. So life is a game of perspective, and 2020 has really forced people to either change their perspective or to expose their lack of a positive or a good perspective, right? And not to judge anybody, because all of us, I guarantee, you and me included, not to knock us, but we are not perfect. We've struggled with having a positive perspective in 2020, but there's also been wins where we have days or weeks or whatever, or moments where we do have a positive perspective. And to anybody listening or watching, whatever you're going through or whatever your passion point is, whether it's racial injustice or whether it's COVID-19 or whether it's conspiracy theories or whatever wave that is taking you down, it's a perspective game. These are all problems. We all realize these are problems, but it's how you're going to see the problem, how you're going to view the problem. And are you going to ride the wave, as you said? I like this. Or are you going to let the wave just take you over and be like, there's so many problems, I can't win, I'm drowning. Don't drown under the waves of the problems.
Yeah.
Good analogy. Okay. Well, we ended on the last question, the last topic, more fun, not so heavy. We'll end it on a light note.
Okay.
And I don't know what you came up with, so I'm excited to hear what you came up with. The question presented was some type of memory or family adventure or something fun from your life. Childhood, maybe a memory that I don't know about, something cool that's a secret you've been keeping for 33 years, or just a fun family story or family memory in this crazy time where families are separated. I think we should end on that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I came up with 2 childhood memories that I thought were kind of interesting. One, I remember we were living in Houston, and we took my grandmother, your great grandmother, and took her on a trip to Colorado. And I was middle school, so I think it was the summer between 7th and 8th grade, maybe. And I was so bored, and we're driving through the beautiful scenery and mountains of Colorado, up in Silverthorne and some different areas. And I remember my mom kept saying, "Oh my gosh, look at these mountains, aren't they beautiful?" And I had my nose stuck in a book the entire time. And my mom and dad, we all laughed about this for years, as I said, "Oh, you've seen one mountain, you've seen them all." And now that I live in Colorado, I find myself going, "Oh my gosh, look at the beauty of the mountains. Oh, look at there. Oh, look there." And so I always think that's kind of funny that and I'm thankful that I have grown beyond that of sticking my nose in a book and not observing the beauty of my surroundings. So I just remember that was kind of a funny memory. And then from there, from Houston, we moved to Alaska, as you know, and just some of the adventures we had living in Alaska were great memories. I remember thinking that the world had come to an end because I was moving from Houston to the outer realms of the unknown of Anchorage, Alaska. In my 15-year-old mind, I thought that the world had ended as we knew it. And once we got there and I settled in, the adventures we had of, daylight, in the summer, it would get dusk about midnight and the sun was fully up by 3 in the morning. And so we grew giant cabbage and the garden did fabulously because it had a lot of sunlight. Snowshoeing, riding snowmobiles, So we had a lot of amazing adventures living in Alaska. And those are really special to me because it really taught me a lot about there was more to the world beyond that little bit I had known and thought was all that. Being a high school freshman and moving away. So those were some good childhood memories. And I was trying to think of some funny things about when you guys were growing up, and the one that really, it was funny to me, perhaps not funny to everybody else, but I remember Friday nights we would make homemade pizza and watch movies, and those were always really special to me. But I remember that as you guys got older and we played board games, how I was always so, oh, this is so great, we're together and we're having such a good time playing a board game. And I'm not very competitive, but the rest of my family is extremely competitive. So my memories, and what was always funny to me, is how it could get very intense, those board games between you and your brother and your sister and your dad, of everybody trying to win, whether it was Clue or Monopoly or whatever game we were playing. So to me, those were funny. And I mean, there's probably lots of other ones, but those were some funny times that came to mind.
Good stuff. Well, somehow Dad's competitive genes just overpowered your calm, peaceful genetics, and his DNA was just splattered all over the rest of us. My goodness.
Every now and then I see calm, peaceful in you guys.
Yeah, we're working. It's a process. Yeah. Well, cool. Thanks for the stories. Thanks for your time. Thanks for coming on here and sharing some wisdom with the people. Any last few thoughts? Any pieces of motivation for people in this time?
Really guard your heart and guard your perspective. Make sure that you're focused clearly on things that are healthy and positive, and try to not get overtaken by the wave of discouragement or despair because of not only the COVID-19, but the cultural unrest, the political scenes. Don't let the wave take you under. Look up. And if you don't have a faith in God, cry out to him. All you have to do is say, God, help. And I can guarantee he will respond and answer, or bring somebody across your path that will help you grow in finding a foundation of faith in God. So for me, that's the most important piece I can share, is hope in God through Christ.
I love it. You should be a preacher. Oh, wait, your husband's a preacher. Either way. I think that's good advice. We'll end on that unpopular advice. It's not super popular to talk about God right now, and somehow, and for some reason, talking about God makes you cuckoo, even though it makes the most sense. But hey, you know what? If you're watching or listening and you don't like God, you're not into God, look into it. I'm just saying, look into it. I've said this for all 2020 with the information I'm trying to provide people, and they're like, well, I don't know about that. I'm like, have you looked into it? Have you looked into it? So my last 2 bits of advice is, if anything, whether it's information about COVID, whether it's information from each candidate in the political scene, and you need more information, don't listen to other people when it comes, or if you're seeking, what is my purpose in life? I want to know more about God. Don't just listen to other people. Look into it. Go get some information. Do some research. That's why my hashtag do your own research has been my 2020 thing. Do your own research, man. Don't listen to people. Don't let Fox News, CNN, the people around you tell you what you need to believe. You need to believe what you need to believe based on your own research and using your own high-functioning mind. That we all have one. We all have a brain. We all have the ability to use the internet. Do your own research. Figure out why you believe what you believe, and stick to it. And like my mother said, don't let the wave wash over you. Stay above it. But the only way you can do that is by you taking control of your perspective. So this has been another episode of Inside the Mirror. Mom, thanks for coming on. Thanks for loving me. Thanks for birthing me. Thanks for putting up with all of us in this crazy family. But all success that we have is going to be credited to you and Dad, but a lot to you. So
I love you lots. Thanks for letting me chat with you.
Yep. Love you back. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks for being on Inside the Mirror. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, this has been another episode of Inside the Mirror. Adios.